Hi, my name is Professor Sousa, and I teach in the BSW program here at Roberts Wesleyan College. One of the things I'm most passionate about is about how values, spirituality, and religion influence social policy practice. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that and tell you about how values, religion, spirituality influence politics and how those values went into the formulation of a unique cross-cultural trip to Israel. It wasn't until really the 1970s where people started to account for religion as it influenced politics, because we saw the rise of the Christian right in the early late 70s, early 80s. We also saw, if you look globally, we saw the Iranian Revolution, which was the Islamic Revolution. So in times past, people could have said religion doesn't really influence politics, but in that time period, people started seeing real consequences, really the effect of how politics engages with individuals and how individuals are influenced by religiously inspired values that actually cause change in society. So my interest was really looking at this and saying, you know, if we as individuals are value-bearing individuals, which I believe we are, what influences our values? Is it our culture? Is it our religion? Is it our spirituality? And just kind of looking at what goes into this, because it's not just a separate category where a lot of people think about religion as being maybe institutions, churches, the religious structures. I think about how religion influences individual values and how those values then shape culture and really political realities. And I would argue it's not a post-fact America, it's just that people's perceptions inform how they see things. This isn't a new concept, it's really postmodern thinking, is that people's perspectives influence how they perceive facts. And there's a lot more that goes into how people perceive things, whether it be policies, politics. There's a lot more that goes into it that we haven't been giving serious consideration. One of those things is values. So my research at Baylor focuses on that. You know, when we think about policies are you know, how we distribute resources in the community. Policies affect student loan payments, interest rates. Policies govern everything that we do in society. And so when you start humanizing that aspect, making it, when students start to understand that politics and policies are very near to them, whether they recognize it or not, they tend to get a little more excited about it. One of the areas that I've been particularly interested in is in the area of global or international issues. There's some pretty core values that we have as Americans that we might not even realize that we have, and that's democracy, freedom, and life. I would put those as kind of preeminent values. But because they're so near and dear to us and they're so much a part of our culture, sometimes we don't realize how embedded that is in our culture. So one of the ways to gain a greater appreciation for our own cultural values is to go outside our culture and to start actually just having an honest, curious, open-minded look at cultures around the world and see and take an assessment, assess what their primary values are. One of the things I'm pretty passionate about here and have been working on is really educating students about the realities of what's going on in the Middle East. Not just because I care about it from a personal sense of having a connection to that piece of land in the Middle East, but also because it's kind of a microcosm of the cultural conflict that we're seeing on our own shores. What you see as Israel is a democracy, shares a lot of our common values, surrounded by countries that are very much at odds with the cultural values that exist there in Israel. And also recognizing how that plays out. How do you have, in social work we talk about, how do you have pluralistic communities with very different cultural values? How do they coexist with people? How do you have many pluralistic communities existing in a peaceful way? One of the things that was important to me when thinking about designing the trip to Israel was that students receive a very holistic education. It's really hard to talk about the Middle East and Israel and the Palestinian issue in a way that that is non-controversial. It's a very hot topic. It's about cultural conflict. What I feel is important is for students to understand history and politics, the history and the political background of the region. I feel like there's a lot of perceptions about the State of Israel and about Palestinian territories and the Palestinian people and leadership that students have that is based on media misconceptions. And I don't fault anyone for that. It's just that it's a very complex issue. And when we go to Israel, what we endeavor to do is to try to give students the best possible education of the nuanced nature of culture, religion, of values, so that they can see for themselves. We try to give students a fully balanced perspective on what's going on, but understanding that when we visit the State of Israel, it's not an endorsement of a political perspective, but we go to the State of Israel because that's where we need to be to witness what's going on.